What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be having our first experience with a classic, well, a rethemed classic. This is Talisman Kingdom Hearts, originally designed by Robert Harris and published by Games Workshop. This version has been rethemed by Elisa Teague and is published by the Boardgames. Now, of course, this is produced under a license from Games Workshop. Now, Julie's going to take it away and tell you more about the game itself.
So this is a competitive game intended for ages 13 and above. It plays 2 to 6 players and can range probably anywhere from 6 to several hours. Think, several...
6 to several hours?
Sorry, 1 to several hours. I was going to say 60 minutes. 1 to several hours. Think one of those marathon sessions of Monopoly you may have played in the past.
Yes. Well, this is a roll and move game, so that can definitely affect how long it's going to take, as well as the number of players, because this is a competitive game. You do have some incentive to cooperate at certain points, but depending on how you're cycling through the deck of cards and certain things that come up, it can really slow you down.
Yeah, our 2-player games were 60 to 90 minutes, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely in that time frame. So what are you doing in Talisman Kingdom Hearts? Well, the goal of this version is to acquire a Keyblade, move to the center of the map, and seal the Door of Darkness, effectively getting rid of the Heartless that are plaguing the land and saving the kingdom. Now, to do that, you're going to be moving across the board. You'll be getting items, followers, different objects, as well as, magical objects that are going to increase your stats so that you'll be able to make that perilous trek into the heart of the board. Now, the player to get to the heart of the board first will get some bonus points by sealing the Door of Darkness. Afterwards, you will total up all of the points, and the player with the most is, of course, the winner. So there's quite a few different ways to score points. Don't worry, we'll go over that in our How to Play the Game. Now, anything you want to add, Julie?
Yes, we want to thank the Op for the review copy and giving us the opportunity to review this game. But as always, we'll remind everybody our opinion is our own.
Yes, it is always our own. I mean, we disagree just sometimes with each other here on the channel. So now what time is it?
It's time to grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend for now.
Mm-hmm. We got to take it to the table one more time.
Yep, one more time. Who's going to win?
It's been close, huh?
Every game's been really close.
We'll see.
Now we're going to take a look at the components for Talisman Kingdom Hearts. Now we'll start, as I always like to do, with the rule book. Now, on the back of the rule book, you've got a nice encounter sequence. I suggest that you use it, especially if you're unfamiliar with the game. It really makes things quite simple, especially as there's a lot of different events that can happen in a sequence. So we've got a nice rule book. I love this, the theming of it. It definitely fits with the style of the game. So you get a nice explanation of all the components that you have, explanation of the different cards, how to set up your character, then how to set up the board, and how to play the game. Now, there isn't really any type of quick reference. So far, I've always found the game to be fairly straightforward with lots of information on the card and on the board. So if you do need to use anything, just consult the rule book. I do like the icon guide in the back. I did find it helpful for certain things. So that's what we've got in the rule book. Here we've got our 6-sided dice, or a total of 6 of them. If you feel like you need more because you're playing with a lot of players, any 6-sided die will do. We've got the crystals that represent the money, well, M-U-N-N-Y, money. I guess I pronounce it the same way. We have the fate tokens, and then I just took out a few examples because there are a lot of them of these different tokens that you'll use with certain adventure cards. So we'll actually move into those right now. You can see there's 2 lamps. We've got 2 Mickey ears, and what they do is, depending on where things appear on the board, you'll take a look at the adventure card. So for example, the treetops, just so you can mark it, you'll place this next to the board with the Aladdin symbol, and then this on a location on the board itself. We'll take a quick look at that when we do our gameplay overview. We're not going to be doing a full how to play. Once you see the size of the board, it'll make sense. So we have all these different adventure cards, so we can have allies, places, villains, accessory, well, this is a place, the accessory shop, enemies, different types of Heartless. You can even gain objects, have special events that will happen. And you'll be going through this entire, well, not the entire adventure deck, but you can get through quite a bit of it in your play as well. You might even run into Jack Skellington or Jiminy Cricket. He's not very nice, by the way. So that's what we have for the adventure cards. Next, we have the Keyblade cards, which are actually played face up. You need to acquire the Keyblade in order to enter the Door of Darkness and seal it. And then lastly, for the cards, we've got the different objects. And I actually had two stacked on top of each other. So we've got the objects and the spells. So the objects, as you can see, there are 6 different objects: accessory slot pack, infernal bands, dream shields. These are all placed face up, and then depending on where you're at on the board, you'll be able to acquire those, or if something comes out of the adventure deck. Now we've got different spells, so some may increase your attack. Now this spell must be cast as gravity, must be cast before any movement, and will pull an enemy or stranger card in an adjacent space into your space. So you can pull the card and counter it and then move. That's really good, especially as some cards may negate abilities on places like Mount Olympus, Thundara, Blizzard. So a whole slew of different spells that you'll be able to gain as you play the game. And you don't really have control as to what you get. They are drawn randomly. Now we've got the stat tracker for the characters with your strength, magic, and health stat. We have the character cards, but before we get to them, I just want to show you the Heartless. So this can happen to a character. You can be turned into a Heartless, and you must follow the instructions here, and you cannot take your turn as normal. Now, for the characters we've got in the game, you see that we've got some images from the video game. We've got Terra, Zion, Aqua, Riku, of course, Donald Duck, as we've got characters from Disney as well, Kairi, Ventus, Sora, Goofy, Mulan, King Mickey, and we're now back to the top. And you'll see we've got all the different characters here with their miniatures. So we've got a nice mini for Mulan. I do like the details on the minis. They look really good. I believe this here is Kairi. Now, I might get it wrong. I do not know all these characters by heart, so I'm going to try to remember them all. Nice easy one here with his Goofy holding the Dream Shield, a rounded buckler. Here we've got, I want to say, that's Riku right there. And his character definitely seems inspired by a little bit by Titus from Final Fantasy X. Here we've got, I'm drawing a blank, Aqua. So her character just looks like Ventus, King Mickey. We've got Sora, who I believe is the main character, or the one they feature the most in Kingdom Hearts. We've got Terra, probably my favorite miniature actually, just with the detail on him, as well as the Keyblade. We've got Donald. And lastly, we've got Zion, or Xion. Depends on how they're pronouncing it at the time. So there you have it. You've taken a look at the components. All that's left is the board, and save this for last because there's a good chance I might knock something over here. This is quite the board. As you can see, it's a 6-fold. So because of that, I really am not going to be able to do a great setup with the limitations of what I've got for filming. So still want to give you a nice showcase of the board. Going to do my best here to sort of scroll across, go through one side, and there you go. See, move the camera a little bit because of how big this board actually is. So we're going to leave it at that. You got to see the board. So what I'm going to do now is get the game set up in such a way that I'll be able to provide you with a gameplay overview, and then Julie and I will be coming back at you with our review of the game. So keep it right here. We'll be back in a flash. Now we're going to do our setup and gameplay overview for Kingdom Hearts Talisman. You may be wondering why everything is still so zoomed in. Well, the board is massive. Even if I zoomed out, I wouldn't get the setup that I wanted. I chose to keep everything nice, tight, and close together, really so that you'll get the best experience for what I'm discussing. Now, with regards to setting up your character, as well as the board, you're going to need your objects. Ideally, you're going to have them stacked out, face up, in the different piles. So you should have 6 stacks of objects. You're going to want to have, of course, your adventure cards shuffled and at the ready. You'll also want your spells nearby, shuffled up, face down, and then the keyblades put next to the board, face up. It really doesn't matter which keyblade that you get. It's what you're going to need to enter the center here, the Door of Darkness. Now, to set up your character, you want to make sure you have some space below him for your followers, your objects that you're going to gain. Now, you do have a limit of 4 objects unless you get some items or followers that change that. You've got your dials. You're going to set them to your starting value on your hero card and take the fate tokens that you need as well. And all characters will start with 1 money. Now, you do have some special abilities for your character. So we're playing Terra, mainly because he starts in Hollow Bastion, which just worked well for filming. His special abilities, you may change your die result by 1 in Traverse Town or the Mystical House. Now you can't see those locations, but they are over here, this area of the board. So he has special abilities, like this is the chapel. I do not know if a character has a special ability in the chapel, but that's just to give you an example. This was the Mystical House or Traverse Town. Well, Terra was here. He'd have special powers. If Aqua or Ventus are in play, he also gains an extra strength. And then while you hold a Keyblade, he has an extra defensive ability. So that's all you really need to know about character setup. Very straightforward. What you're going to then do is determine who goes first, and you're going to start rolling dice. That's going to be very simple and straightforward. You're going to roll the die, then you're going to decide where you're going to move. Now, I can move 1 to the chapel, which has an ability. So if there is no card here at the end of your turn, you may heal up to 2 health at the cost of 1 money. Well, the word healing means up to your starting health. It's not something that I need to do. It's something I would be able to if no card is left over here. Now, how could that happen? Well, we'll shuffle the deck quickly, but an example of a card being left in a location, and I know I've got some at the bottom of the deck, for example, are the treetops. If this came into play, and this will be a great example to show you how you would place a card near the board. So ideally for the outer regions, what you do is place the card just, off the board, clearly visible in the location. Now, if you have this show up somewhere, say like the inner region, you put it off to the side with the token just marking where that showed up. Now, couldn't happen there. The Keyblade Graveyard, you have to roll a dice to get a quest, so that could only happen in a location where you've got a blue card. So, in any case, just want to showcase that quickly. Let's continue on with what we need to do. So, shuffle the cards up a little bit more. When we go to the chapel, we then need to draw a card. So we get an Angel Heartless attack. This region, outer or middle, has been overrun with Angel Heartless. All characters in this region lose 1 health, after which the Angel Heartless attack card is discarded. So all I have to do is discard the card, and I lose a health. That's no fun. Let's see what we could do on our next turn. Well, I'm just rolling 1s. So let's go to Hollow Bastion. Now here we've got the die roll. So we'd roll the dice, and then we'd follow the results. So 3, unfortunately, it's not good. We really wanted a 4+. So I'd have to lose 1 magic and go down to 0. Let's say I could roll better. Nope, 3 again. 2. Clearly don't want to roll high. So let's just say I roll the 6. If I roll the 6, I would then follow the other option of gaining 1 spell. So that's what we can do. Or there's something that the beast can do. He will buy any of your objects for 1 money in case you don't want to roll the dice. So that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be rolling the die, moving around the board. I can go in either direction, as you saw. 1, 2, 3, 4. This takes me to the storm-tossed island. I have to roll a die here. So I get a result of 4. So 4 through 5 would mean I'm safe on the storm-tossed island. Now, last thing I want to go over is combat. So we'll take a quick look through the deck. And these guys are difficult. I need to find someone that I would face with strength. So let's say I draw a soldier Heartless. Well, that's the card, and I have to now fight the Heartless. The player opposite of me will then roll a die for the Heartless. So you get their total strength, which is 4, plus 3 for 7. My strength is 5. So for my roll, I get 3 plus 5, which is 8, meaning I defeat the Heartless. I will keep him as a trophy. And when I have 5 encounter points worth of Heartless, I can trade that in to upgrade one of my stats. Now, anything over a value of 5, well, you lose it. So that's what you're going to be doing. You need to move through the regions. So eventually you have to get through the battle of 1000 Heartless, then move up to the middle region. You can also do this with a gummy ship item that you can obtain. And once it's used, well, then it's gone. You may also use a corridor of darkness to move up. And the only way to move into this middle area, there's the end of the world, which you can partially... Now, the end of the world area is just off camera. It's right here. But there is the Gate of the Dark, which will let you move up. So I'm at there now, moving back onto the board. Which you can sort of see Terra right there. So you have to move up. That's the only way in. Then you can move 1 in either direction. So it's your choice. You can only move 1 space. You no longer roll a die. You need to survive and get to the Door of Darkness. To do so, if you'd like to close the Door of Darkness, you can see the symbol here. You will need to have a Keyblade. So there you have it. That's an overview as to what you're going to be doing in Talisman Kingdom Hearts. There are a few more rules, but we really wanted to go over the gist of it so that you know what to expect when you're playing the game. Now, Julie and I are going to be coming back at you with our review of Talisman Kingdom Hearts. So Talisman Kingdom Hearts, the version that you really wanted to try. What did you think of the game?
So you had to put that dig in. We had the opportunity, the op offered us the Batman version or the Kingdom Hearts version. And I didn't know what Kingdom Hearts was. Jason said, it's the Disney version with some other characters or Batman. I'm like, well, there's no question we're doing the Disney characters, right?
Yes.
So yes, you had to put it in there. This is my choice. He would have loved to have the Batman version.
Of course. I mean, Batman villains, Batman villain miniatures. We already have lots of Batman minis, but I can always use more Batman.
Yeah, I'm sure Little Man might have, if he had had a say at that point, might have been able to say, hey, I prefer Batman, but we'll see. I enjoyed this version. I enjoyed having characters that I knew. Can you tell me a little bit more about the other characters? I don't know where they come from.
Just a little bit of background on Kingdom Hearts if you do not know the series. Kingdom Hearts is a video game by Square Enix. Now it's a sort of a mix of some Final Fantasy elements taking place in a fictionalized universe. So you do have characters like Sora, Ventus, and I'm drawing some blanks because I've never actually played Kingdom Hearts, but effectively you do have the Heartless that are terrorizing the kingdom, and the characters, the original ones that are created for the game, as well as some of the famous Disney characters must band together in order to save the kingdom from the Heartless. So this is the Talisman version of that.
So, about the game. I love the colors of it. From a production value, I like the colors. I like the way, I like the board.
There's something I don't want to add, so keep going, but I want to make sure we don't jump ahead of the production.
Okay. I love the minis, even though they're not painted. I thought they were pretty cool. I like the fact that, Goofy has, a shield, and Disney Mickey has, the key.
Oh, the Keyblade.
I think that's pretty cool. I enjoyed having the minis like that, not just tiny little minis, but nice size minis, and I like the colors and the production value of the cards that we have.
And the minis are quite detailed as well.
Yes.
So I'm not that big of a fan of the cards personally. I love the board and I love the miniatures. Plenty of detail. If you do want to paint the minis, they're going to come out very well. It's just that the cards use the art from the video game. I get it's a Kingdom Hearts license, but I don't love seeing polygonal video game art, in my game. Now, it wasn't as bad for some of the Disney characters, but definitely on the original characters like Sora and Ventus, they just feel a little blocky because this is based on the original Kingdom Hearts, which is a few console generations ago. So don't love that choice, but everything else, production value-wise, especially the board, looks absolutely great. Colors, it's definitely a more vibrant version of Talisman compared to some of the other skin versions that are out there, and it fits very well in our collection. And no complaints about the quality of the components either.
No, and I like the little, the little cardboard pieces that you're supposed to use to link the card to the place on the board. I thought that was a nice touch, and I like the different variety of them also. I thought they were pretty well themed for this as well.
And keeps the board a lot neater rather than having...
We could have used a bigger table. We didn't play on this table. We played on a smaller table. We were pretty much maxing out our real estate. It's not a small real estate game. It does end up taking a lot of room, especially as the more cards come out. And
it does have a really nice table presence, specifically because of the board. So we always tell you later on the video. I'll take a chance to tell you now. Check out our Instagram, Facebook, if you want to see some pictures from the game.
Right. So production value, that was that. I grew up on Monopoly, so and I loved playing it. I know we've moved past this now.
I moved past Monopoly a long time ago. I also grew up playing Monopoly. I also quite quickly learned to just not really enjoy how long Monopoly can take. It's a fun game that overstays its welcome.
I think to try to explain it to maybe to people that are on, they're not quite as heavy gamers as Jason is. I think this game fits well for those people. Just to jump ahead, maybe of where we're going, Jason will play some games for 10 hours straight and not think that they're overstepping their welcome on the table, because there's a lot of stuff going on. I think
just to add, since you're speaking for me, I like the things to be deterministic. So playing a long campaign game as we're progressing, making meaningful decisions, constantly having meaningful decisions, as well as having cool story elements is a great way to keep me engaged enough to sit down and maybe play a game for an entire day.
Which is what I was going to add. I don't mind it as much. I got frustrated a few times because this is, you have to roll the dice to end up on a particular square, and you're trying to, you have to hit particular squares. I was channeling my best Will Wheaton when we played this game, and I could not roll a dice to save my life. I was I was doing okay anyways, in the sense of I was still picking up some nice objects. However, I kept hitting the equivalent of prison and Monopoly, and I kept losing my cards. I kept, going back and forth, jumping over the space that I needed to go to, just not able to land on that space. Somehow, though, and I think that's one of the things that I would say I like about this game, and I know we're going to have a difference of opinion. I don't know where we'll end up from a rating perspective. That's part of the fun. We don't talk about it before.
No, we do not discuss our ratings beforehand.
I got frustrated quite a few times with that.
Well, a good example is she only got to the last area of the board in our final playthrough. I was able to get to the Door of Darkness every time just because of the way the dice lined up for me. In fact, I'd have to say that those bonus points and the rolls I got were a big difference maker for me.
Well, if you hadn't gotten there first and you hadn't gotten those bonus, I would have beat you on multiple of those.
And the bonus is actually random based on a die roll.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, there's a lot, to keep this short, because we could end up turning on in circles like you do on the board. For a long time. I think to keep it succinct from my perspective, I would say this is a game that I would classify with the Monopoly-esque type of games, maybe a 2.0 version, because you're not just, Monopoly has just one ring.
I guess a better way to say it is that it's a product of its time. This is definitely a game that came out when Roll and Move was a big thing. As we mentioned, this has been rethemed, so there's some minor differences, but the core mechanics of Talisman are intact. This is the same as the 4th edition that is currently out, which is, in terms of the moving around the board, is largely the same as the original version. Don't know for a fact. That's just going from what I've heard, reading things on different forums as well as Reddit.
So for me, I think I just want to finish on this. There is a lot of dice chucking, a lot of randomness. There's randomness in the cards that you're getting when you're picking up cards. There's the randomness of the dice, as you called it. Very little.
There's no deterministic favor. This game is going to be a game of chance.
I was going to say it is very much up to chance. So if Lady Luck is on your side that day, you may have a very good day, and if she's not on your side, like she wasn't when we were playing the game, then you may not have, as great a game. That being said, the thing that, like I said, that I think is great about this that I would add is the fact that there are so many opportunities to score points. You don't have to be the one to close the gate to win the game. There are many opportunities, and like I said, I could have beaten you had I not been as unlucky as I was losing most of my
But don't forget, I also got very unlucky in those games by losing all of my followers because of Jiminy Cricket, who I got on both plays that were very close, which probably cost me almost 10 points.
And how many times did I get Maleficent, who made us lose all of our spells, or the one that I got that made me lose all of my magical objects?
Yeah, there's definitely things like that happen. But that one where you lost all your magical objects, I definitely really beat you badly.
Yes.
On that one. But just saying the other ones.
That's my take on it. So succinctly, because I know you have a lot to say about this game, what would you say about it?
Well, as Julie said, this is definitely a great game. Like, let's say you were playing Monopoly, Sorry, and not to sort of lower the esteem of those games. They're very accessible for families. And if, for example, you love Disney and you're looking for something to take your family just sort of one step up and then bring in other more advanced games, this serves as a nice bridge, especially with this type of retheming, because you're going with Kingdom Hearts, something that your kids may know due to the video game license. You also have the Disney characters, which makes, a lot easier for grandma and grandpa who are used to rolling around.
Hey! What are you calling? I'm not grandma, grandpa. And for me, this made it more accessible.
Oh, used to rolling dice with Monopoly or things like that. It's just an easier step up in gaming. Now, the one thing I will say, I think it's time to let the original core version of Talisman die. We've seen some nice rethemes of it. There's currently the 4th edition of it. It's time to update the system. I think that there's a lot of fun here. There's a lot of great value, but I'd really like to see something that rethemes the game and not just changes the locations, changes what happens, changes just maybe some elements on the cards. I want to see some more deterministic elements added to it. I'd love it if there was cards, items that you could get that would just let you control your movement. Now, we did have that with Chip and Dale, which lets you move one extra square, but the ability to move one extra space or one less space would be ginormous in this game.
That would be a huge card.
It'd be very strong. And seeing things like that, I think that there is a lot of room to refine Talisman into something that's going to also just how do I put it? Something that's going to respect your time a little bit more. Because if I look at all the games that we have in our collection, you can see a lot of them back there. And I think about playing Talisman with more than 4 players, because 4 players, we probably be getting close to between the 2 to 3 hour mark. If we get 5 or 6, you're going to fall into a lot of issues that happen in gaming just in general, with people pulling out their phones, checking out, and not staying engaged just because of other distractions. Now, I play Dungeons and Dragons, and it's happened when, a DM is working with one player in particular because of their personal story, what's going on, people start checking out. And with 6 players in Talisman, it's going to be a while for the board to get back around to you. Now, one thing that you can do, and something that I would almost suggest, if you are a fan, you're probably doing this if you're a big fan of Talisman, but if you like games to play quicker, is almost to play simultaneously. It's just roll, pick your card up, and keep things moving so that you've got a nice flow of game, especially with, gameplay with 6 players. Probably by the time it's coming back around to someone, they may have just finished up all of their actions. Now, you might have to slow it down at some point, but I'm someone that really likes games like this to take a lot less time, and it's a little bit long for my taste. That being said, with the production value and the simplicity, I don't think that Talisman is, like done. People are still playing Monopoly, still playing other games that are older. I mean, we've got potentially a retheme or a revamp of Hero Quest, and I'm really hoping they update that, because if it's as I remember it, I'm not sure I'm going to have space for it in this collection, just because of the way they've changed dungeon crawl games so much since it originally came out. So I think I've said enough about the game. I'm ready to score it. Talked about the components, talked about just how I feel about the system. I don't hate it, but it's not something that I love. It has elements that I've really sort of moved beyond enjoying as a gamer, unless the game plays very quickly.
So you've given your opinion. That leads to what score?
It's a 6.5. The game is a very nice retheme. It's got great components. I love the table presence, but it just doesn't quite get to the level where I'm going to want to bring this back up to the table on any given occasion. I don't think it's going to leave our collection. It's going to be a great game to play with our little man, be a great game to play with his grandparents as well, something that he'll be able to take out and get to the table with his friends. Like this says, ages 13 and above. You can definitely play this easily much younger. I mean, I was playing Monopoly at what? I don't even know, like basically about that same age group, because there's not that many deterministic things that you have to do. So it's very accessible, and I do appreciate it on that level.
See, it's funny. He had so many criticisms from it. I thought it was going to get a lower score. I also give it a 6.5. I think it's great at what it's intending to be. The lower score for me is more that, a little bit in line with what Jason's saying. I think for us playing a game for the two of us, have moved past this kind of game. However, I look forward to playing this kind of game with our little guy at some point. And I do believe that this is a game that's very much appropriate for entry-level gamers, families looking for family-appropriate game, or even, you don't have to have young kids to want to play this. I think if you like games, like Jason alluded to before, like Monopoly and like that kind of game, you like Disney or Kingdom Hearts, I think that this is something that you would enjoy. It definitely does have the disadvantage of being a relatively long game, but that's part of what this game is. So I can't take away from that. So for me, the 6.5 is that this is it's a solid game with a couple of things that make it a little bit less of a game for Jason or I.
I got the 6.5 specifically because of accessibility and the components. Not gonna lie, the minis and the beautiful board probably got this game an extra point than I would have given it normally. If things were a little bit more drab and dull, almost kind of like...
Well, that goes into all of our rating systems.
It does go into all of our ratings, but I'm just saying, like, the production definitely makes this a lot more enjoyable, because there are games that we will have played that have low quality production, or perfect example, Legendary Encounters Firefly. The Firefly version is fantastic. The art is bunk, but it didn't affect our score.
Because you enjoyed the game so much.
Exactly.
I mean, we were just having a conversation with a game designer about the importance of table presence and how it influences our opinion of games as well. And I'm sure we're not the only ones out there. When something is pretty and nice to look at and nice to play, you want to pull it back out. So
that's for sure.
Did you have anything to add, or did I say what time it is?
No, I think it's time to tell everyone what time it is.
It is time to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
Also, down below in the video description, you will find links to all of our social media feeds: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I've already mentioned it once before, but if you'd like to see some pictures of us playing Talisman Kingdom Hearts, check out those feeds, follow us there. You'll also be able to see what comes in the door. You get an idea as to maybe what some of our upcoming reviews are going to be. And now popping up in front of me, you're going to have a link to our most recently released video. And then we're going to have a link that's going to take you back to one of our other video reviews by the op. I don't know, which one should we do?
I'll leave it up to you.
All right, so maybe it'll rotate. Haven't decided yet. So now what time is it?
Now it's time to grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend.
Gotta keep playing games.
Definitely gonna keep playing games.
Maybe we'll pull this one out another time, just see if maybe I can finally beat you.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't beat me once. Really close. 2 games I won by a point. Lucky die roll for the closing the door of darkness.
Maybe on a day where I feel like Lady Luck's on my side.